I did a segment leading up to the election on how to come up with a process for voting, and I hope it helped. It did help a lot of the folks that I talked to about it, and I hope you came up with your own process. And I thought it would be appropriate to do a follow-up session now that the election is over. And what I want to say here is it's not a time to relax when it comes to value creation. Value creation behaviors can never stop if we want to keep moving in the right direction. And I say that because those that rig the game in their favor, which is essentially taking value out of the world, they never seem to stop. So when an election is over and we have people in office, if we just relax and say, okay, we did our job and wow, amazing things are going to happen, that's really almost never the case that it actually does. Whatever elected leaders tell us they're going to do to get elected, that to me a lot of times seems like a game. They even have focus groups to say something, see how it comes across, and whatever resonates the most, that's what they say so they can get elected. What I think it should be is, my gosh, let's do what we should be doing to improve conditions for the citizenry. So again, we can never relax. We have to keep pushing forward and holding them accountable. It's curious to me why so many people seem to fight for the status quo. And the status quo is when it comes to government, it's putting more and more money into the system for proportionately worse result. Like that just tells you instantly that it's not working. But we don't look at it. We seem to get caught up in this game of, calling each other names or being part of one tribe or the other. And that seems to be what's most important, essentially winning an election, not creating better conditions for the citizenry. So just a quick review and my take on it. The job of government should be to continually improve the conditions to work, live, learn, and play for the citizenry, and doing all of that at a lowering relative cost over time. So improve the experience for us, safety, security, health, everything that goes into it, education, all of it at a lowering relative cost. So this is a return on our taxpayer dollars that are going in. We should demand that. And so the status quo fight that seems to come up every election, I don't understand, because it's not about what I really think it should be and what I believe most families want it to be for them. So how do I know it isn't working? Well, that's how I know it isn't working. And the silent majority, in my opinion, is probably the most to blame for this happening. How did we get to a place culturally where we say, hey, we're not supposed to say anything. We're supposed to be quiet. We can't point out what we're actually looking at and seeing is not going to be good for the country. So how did we get there? And I think the most powerful weapon we have is to constantly shine a flashlight on that, regardless of how people react to it. If it's right, where we're pointing something out that's taking value out of the world, we should be able to talk about it. And if people are defending it for whatever reason, they're trying to rig the game to take value out of the world. And we need to stop that. So the more of us that shine a light on it, actually, the easier it'll be, because we have support. I think a lot of times there's no support. Somebody says something, calling out something, taking value out of the world, and they get canceled and nobody stands up to support them. So I'm an advocate for we absolutely have to stand up and support everybody that's fighting to create more value in the world, and at the same time pushing back on things that are taking value out of the world. Uncertainty is a pretty interesting concept. I find a lot of people want to be certain about things. They want to have certainty as they go through life. But is that even really possible? I don't think it is possible. A lot of folks would say, I'll never start my own business because I'm not a risk taker, kind of leaning back on security and what they believe is certainty. I've always thought of starting a business as being less risky than having a job, because now I'm relying on myself. If I bring the value, I'm going to always have a company. It's a certainty for me, because I actually believe a lot more in my ability than I believe if I was working for another company and their ability to keep making all of the right decisions. So when it comes to elections and thinking about, whoever you vote for, what we do, what's going to happen as a country, I don't think there ever can be certainty around it, other than if everybody's applying holistic value creation behaviors to continually create more value in the world. And when I say holistic, you've heard me talk about this on the podcast a number of times. We want to in balance proportionately, and it's different for everybody to some degree, but create material value, emotional energy value, net positive emotional energy value, and spiritual value, which is about connectedness, whether you're deeply religious or the complete opposite. Connection to community is wildly important, and we're missing that. So I think as long as we step into a situation and there's uncertainty, kind of like starting a new business, going from 0 to 1, one being, hey, we've got some traction and now we can kind of rinse and repeat a little bit. We still want to keep, moving forward. But 0 to 1, when an entrepreneur steps in there, there's things that they're going to have to figure out that they don't have the answer to. But if you're applying holistic value creation behaviors and taking steps forward, and I think this applies to our approach to holding our elected leaders accountable, our families, and all of it, you can always see the next step that should be taken. Always. So if we apply that, we'll keep marching forward, and it'll always get better if enough of us are actually doing it. And there's a lot that we can control, and there's way more that we can influence. I hear a lot of people say, my vote doesn't count. What can I really do? I'm just one person. Well, you can do a lot, and everyone can do a lot. There's so many cases throughout history where one person significantly changes the culture of an entire country. We can all do a lot. Our vote really matters. I always look at my vote and say, which of these elected officials or propositions or things that I'm voting for will create net positive value in the world. And I encourage everybody else to do the same thing. What's going to improve conditions for your family to work, live, learn, and play? And that's how I apply how I vote and how I really approach everything in life the best that I can. And there's really no end to how well I can apply that. And I think that's probably true for just about everybody. And when I think about this value creation and rigging the game to take value out of the world cycle, literally 100% of the time, when you look back through recorded history, civilizations and cultures were completely wiped out or significantly diffused because of this game. And what I actually believe is that if more and more of us approach the world with holistic value creation behaviors, we can actually finally break this cycle.